Testing on the microphone. Ooh, Audacity looks weird now that it's been updated. It's all different funky colors. Now I'm not going to know what I'm doing. Unusable. Garbage.
I like video games.
You change the colors.
The lesson here, kids, is never try.
Never try to update your apps.
That too.
Yeah.
Just never update.
It looks kind of fancy and high tech now, though.
It does. It's gotten itself into the modern era, which I don't really know if it needed to, but oh well. Sounds good to me. Hello and welcome to another episode of Embassy Exclusive. This is a monthly supplemental show for fans of the VG Embassy Game Music Podcast. I'm Ed.
I'm Joe.
I'm Todd.
And each month we get together and share video game music, the latest news in gaming, and our organically certified opinions on both. This is episode 58 for July 2024. I hope everyone enjoys it.
I am a person.
Wait, this is organic?
Certified.
I thought I was just reading the prompts.
If you are an AI-generated human, you just need to leave. Sorry.
I had someone at work ask me if I was a robot.
I get asked that a lot, too.
Was it in person?
No, it was over the phone. I didn't know what to say. I said I don't think so.
That's the best answer I think you can give.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
No, of course not. Beep, beep, boop.
I thought it was like one of your coworkers, just like...
No. So a random person over the phone thought I was a machine or a robot or something.
That's funny. Just move your mic like a little more towards your face. Sorry. There we go. Want to make sure everybody can hear your beautiful, beautiful voice.
Yay.
So, middle of... well, it's actually the beginning of August, but this is the end of July show. And it's friggin' hot outside, boys.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not happy about it.
The humidity around here is outrageous, and I can't take it.
I wouldn't know. I'm an indoor kid.
Yeah. I mean, it's mostly same, but that grass outside ain't getting any shorter without me having to go out there and sweat myself into a puddle mowing it. So, pain in the butt, but that means lots of time for indoor, air-conditioned video gaming and stuff.
Yep.
That being said, what you guys been up to this past month?
Well, I finally finished Rogue Legacy 2. I beat the final boss in that.
Oh, nice.
And was excited and had a good time with it, and I could have tried to do it with other characters and, try to unlock everything, but I'll say, probably a good 30 hours into it to beat the final boss once. And I was happy, so I declared myself done.
Cool.
And that was just like a week and a half ago.
Did you have a particular favorite weapon or skill in the game?
I went just as the knight. I found that to be the easiest. You can attack while moving and while jumping, especially. So you can I'll say attack and move the smoothest I found that way. Now, I'm sure there are people who could beat the game with any character and argue against anything that I could say about it. But for me, it worked, and I had a good time with the game, and it ran its course. Yeah. So I'm glad I finished it, because it's one of the only games I've actually beaten this year. I've been, I'll say, playing a bunch and getting to a point where it's not fun and then moving on, which I don't mind doing, but I don't know. I like to be able to write down that I beat something.
Yeah, no, I agree. My list is very short this year so far, too. But again, it's because I've just been playing a lot of the same games for many, many hours. And but I was going to say I really liked the lance in the game, because you can dash forward with it. That's one of my favorites, especially if you get a fire lance.
I gave that a try. That was cool, too.
Yeah.
I tried all of them. Ultimately, though, I found it was just the easiest and most reliable to play as the knight.
Sounds good to me. Very well-rounded. What about you, Todd? Did you also use the knight?
I did not.
Oh,
but I am.
He is a creature of the night, though.
Ooh.
When I get that opportunity, yes. I'm still playing Final Fantasy Rebirth, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, slowly but surely.
Sounds like a long game.
It is a long game, and I'm playing it in somewhat small chunks.
Ah, okay.
But I am dangerously close to the end. I reached the point where the game is like, if you hit yes here, you're not going to be able to go back and do other stuff. So are you sure that you want to do this? Which is usually the you're in
point
the end
no
of the
return.
game.
Yeah. You see just like Sephiroth just hanging out at the alley down there. It's like, do you want to approach?
Do you want to go say hi to him or what?
Hi there.
So I anticipate being finished with that very soon. I recently got a new computer.
Yes,
I hesitate
that's right.
to say PC, but it is a PC style computer.
Like a tower.
It's a tower. It's an actual desktop,
Awesome.
like computer that of the likes of which I haven't had for probably 20 years.
Fantastic.
And on it, I have been tinkering around with my Steam library, but one of the first things I tried was Train World Simulator.
Oh yeah, I saw you playing that on Steam a while
Which
ago,
I picked up a while ago on, I think it was Humble. They had a deal where there was the main game with a bunch of the...
Yeah, it was like a sim bundle or something.
Right,
like that.
right. It's fun. I don't know that I'm going to build a train depot in my room that I play games in and play every single track and download all of the routes that you can drive and stuff like that. But
Your wife would love that.
it's
Why is there a train depot in our room? Hear me out on that.
it's relaxing and fun, and I am digging learning a little bit more about how trains actually work.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't really I played a little bit of it when you got it for me, and haven't really gotten back into it. But now that you are, maybe I'll. It's not multiplayer, is it?
No,
I can't get two trains on either side of the tracks and run them head on into
not
each
as
other.
far as I know. There is an online component, you can create an account with the developer and
probably similar to
and do something with it. I don't know.
So
but
it's similar to World of Trucks for the truck simulator games, where it basically tracks your stats and everything. It's like an online.
that might be all it is. I don't know. I haven't looked at it at all. I've just been playing the game.
That's cool.
So I've done that a little bit.
Is it meant to be realistic, or is it?
Yeah, it is an
Okay.
attempt at being realistic at the process of
I'm not familiar with this one, so
driving trains and stopping at stations and different kinds, electric ones and coal steam trains and stuff like that. So how they all work and trying to be as accurate as possible with physics and all of that.
oh, neat.
Speaking of sim rigs and everything, I don't know if you guys saw, but Linus Tech Tips built a $10,000 driving rig specifically for the American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator 2 games. And I'm drooling. I sent it to Milo. I'm like, next Christmas.
She said, "Calm down."
It's got hydraulics and a full cab setup. It looked glorious. But so Todd, you get your train depot, and I'll get my $10,000 driving truck rig,
And both of our wives will be disappointed.
exactly.
in us.
And then we'll just they can move in together, and then we'll move in together, and we'll just have a big rig thing set up downstairs. Good to go. Anything else you're playing?
One other thing that I will discuss as part of my topic in a little bit.
Sounds good. Similar for me here, just continuing on games. Still catching up with SnowRunner, and I think I'm still on the same map that I was on last month. There's just a lot of stuff to do, so almost done with that now. And what else? Oh, I'm playing Nordic Ashes Survivors of Ragnarok, which is another Vampire Survivor-like game, which is my new and current obsession. A little over 40 hours in it at this point, but I've been playing it for quite a while. I've had it since it was in very, very early access, and now it's finally in full release. So doing that, trying to beat at least the hard mode with all the characters. There's still some characters I need to unlock, and there's a huge selection of weapons and items to do. So I don't know how much of a completionist I want to be. There is the expert mode after beating all the levels on hard mode, and we'll see how much I want to get into it then. And there's still more forthcoming updates and content for Deep Rock Galactic Survivors. So once that comes out, I'll be jumping back into that one.
Did I bring up last month that I ended up playing through that one?
Yeah,
Okay,
you
I
did.
did. I forget if I mentioned that or not. I had a good time with that one. Thank you again for the recommendation.
Yeah, because remember I was talking about how they took away all my items and I had to rebuy them.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I did. I got all those big orbs that you needed to recollect in order to buy all the stuff back. So I did that.
that's
It didn't take nearly as long as I thought it was going to. And playing the new modes was kind of cool because there were different challenges, super low health and no healing and stuff like that. So kept me occupied for probably about a week after the new one came out before I reclaimed all of my missing items again. So hopefully they don't do that again this next time they have a big update, because I don't know if I want to go back through that again. Little annoying. That That should be a topic one day. What are games that take away your stuff? Oh, I think we did do something like that. Remember, we did do you like having all your abilities at once at the beginning of the game, or do you like to like slowly gain them? And a couple people mentioned Symphony of the Night, where you start off with out of the card with all his stuff, and then death takes all your crap away.
That happens in like every Metroid game.
Yeah, exactly. It just gives you a taste of what you got. Or you start off like those racing games in that souped-up car, and then you crash it into a wall, and then you're stuck with a Yugo or something like that. But anyways, yeah, glad you guys are having some fun, staying cool. And Retro World Expo is coming up at the end of the month. Joe, I know you're not going to this one. Todd, are you gonna come this time?
I think I can make it to one of the days. I think I've got something else going on one of the other days. I have to confirm.
Okay. Well, we'll see which
what I'm doing, I can do.
Pretty sure it's confirmed that Justin and I are going to be doing a panel. Right. So hopefully you'll be able to make it to that day.
Hopefully I'll be able to make it, yeah.
And if so, we can carpool up or whatever you want. Yeah, it'll be fun. Looking forward to that. Looking around and seeing all the merch and all the games and stuff. It's always a good time going up there. So, yeah, let's move on to our topics. We've got some good stuff today, some very controversial topics, and some fun topics, too. Speaking of fun topics, we'll start off with Todd. What track did you bring today?
My track of the day is Blue and White. This is from Etrian Odyssey, which was released on the Nintendo DS way back in 2007. Composer, I spelt wrong, Yuzo Koshiro.
Nice.
Welcome back. That was Blue and White from Etrian Odyssey, released on the DS in 2007, composed by Yuzo Koshiro, and what a groove. Nice and chill.
Very nice, smooth chiptune. Yeah, it's a great way to open the show.
I enjoyed that one very much. I was telling Ed while we were listening to it that I almost picked a much more upbeat track until I heard this one, and I said, "Yeah, this is the one. This is the one. Bringing it down. I'm bringing it down." And that kind of brings me to my topic, which Etrian Odyssey actually is part of, and that is, do you have any slow burner games that you play over a very long time? Not necessarily takes you a long time to play, but games that you play and progress in very small chunks over months or even years. And the reason that I came up with this is because Etrian Odyssey, being in a DS game, has been sitting in my 3DS on my nightstand literally for years. And it sits there and sleeps, the little blue light, breathes or whatever you want to call it.
It's on my nightstand too.
For years and years.
Yep.
And every once in a while, I take it out and I open it up and I play a little Etrian Odyssey and I close it and I might go back to it like the next day. I might not go back to it for months or years. The story is like, I don't care that much about the story, so I don't need to follow it. It's a dungeon crawler, so I kind of know what to do. Etrian Odyssey being on the DS, you have your viewpoint, your view of the world on the top screen, and you can draw your map on the bottom as if you had a paper and pen, so it's kind of old school in that respect.
That's cool.
Which I think is a really good use of the touchscreen on the DS. And it's just been a game that, like, I've just been playing in very, very small pieces for, I don't know, 7-8 years now. I don't even know.
That's crazy.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
There has literally been multiple year periods between play sessions with it.
Okay.
Wow. And so I was like, I wonder if I'm the only one that does anything like this. And actually discussing the topic with my wife before I came here to record this podcast, she reminded me that she played Dicey Dungeons on my Switch over the course of about a year and a half, sort of in the same way. She would play it for a while and then not touch it for months and then go back and play another couple of levels. And that's kind of another example of this. But do you guys do anything like that?
I'm kind of doing something like that with Marvel Snap on my phone. I've been playing it for about a year, on and off. Mostly on, but some off. Like, I'll get mad at it or tired of it, and I'll just put it away. And usually when I do that with a game, I intend to get back to it, but then I get tied up in something else. And I have gotten tied up in other games over the course of the year I've been playing Snap. But I find myself, when I have a down moment, and because of the fact that it's on my phone, which is, on my person all the time, I can just play a round or two really quick and then put it away, and like that's that.
Then he forgets to go to his Marvel Snap anonymous meetings and falls off the horse. And
I have a friend who's really into it, even more than I am, and we talk about it. And knowing that, like, I can text a buddy of mine and say, "Hey, did you get that new card?" or "Hey, have you tried this combination yet?" And we can actually have a conversation about it at almost any time.
Yeah,
is I think what's keeping me going. If I was the only one playing it of the people that I knew, I would have moved on. But I think the fact that me and my friend are both playing it, and they actually just introduced a thing this week called Alliances, where you could form guilds with other people in the game.
No, that's cool.
And earn bonuses by, accomplishing certain things in the game.
Yeah.
It's probably going to keep me hooked for the foreseeable future. The game itself changes very slowly, but there are always new cards coming out and new decks you could build, and new archetypes and new, the meta is always changing, like what's effective and what's not. And I'm far enough into it now that I have enough card selection that I can play a competitive round or a competitive hand at any time, even if I were to put it down for like a couple of months.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still haven't given a penny to it, which I'm happy about, because it's definitely not pay to win. But I do wish it was the kind of thing where they didn't have subscriptions, or I could just, unlock everything by paying one upfront fee. I would have done that, maybe not day one, but I would have done that like day two if that was an option.
Yeah.
But instead they charge $10 a month with additional, for subscription only cards.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And that just isn't anything that I have any desire to do.
Yeah. If there's like a mobile game like Hill Climb Racer 2, which I'm kind of in the middle of playing right now, it would like show you ads all the time, but it was like, you buy something you buy anything in the store. Like the minimum is like, like a $2 or $3 purchase just for some coins and gems or whatever. But as soon as you make the purchase, like all of the involuntary ads go away. Like you can like watch an ad if you want to like double your earnings from a run or something, but no more ads. And I'm like, oh, that's worth it, because if it's one of those games where I know I'm going to be putting hours and hours into, I'm going to save that much time, and I want to give the devs something, $2, $3 for me is worth it. So if there was something like that for Snap, that would be great. But
yeah,
are there ads in Snap? Like, do you?
No, it's ad free.
Oh, then you don't have anything to worry about.
Oh no, it's not that I worry about it. It's more that there are things that I miss out on, like exclusive cards and bonuses and things like that.
Gotcha.
That I would be happy to pay to unlock if I only had to pay once. I don't want to subscribe to a game.
Yep.
That's just a line I won't cross.
Yeah. Hill Climb Racing has like a $5 a month thing for the VIP, and I'm like, I'm not going to give you that much money. I don't care what you're giving me in return.
If
I'm not paying $60 a year for a mobile game.
If they just charged me $50 up front and said, like, for as long as this game is active, you'll have access to everything, I would have done it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Because it's a good game, and I've put probably hundreds of hours into it at this point. I mean, I've been playing it for a long time, and obsessively for quite a while. But yeah, that's just not how it is set up, and that's not how they make their money. So they will not make any money from me.
That's how it goes. I mean, the absolute easy answer for me is, guys,
SnowRunner.
SnowRunner.
yeah. I mean, I've been playing since 2020, so 4 years now, and it's not a thing where I'm always constantly playing it. Like last episode, I just said that it had been 5 months since I had picked it up, and then I started it up again. Just like riding a bicycle, I was back in it. And there's even less story than Etrian Odyssey. Like, it's just, okay, what missions are available? Let's pick one, let's do it, and then you're off.
I wouldn't say you've put it down as easily. I could have sworn you just got physically aroused by the idea of a $10,000 truck rig.
Well, that's American Truck Simulator. That's not SnowRunner. It's actually really hard to play SnowRunner with a wheel. I tried it a couple times and was like, no, this is a controller game for sure.
My mistake.
You must know your truck games. Yeah, but, I'll put it down when a good game comes along, like, when Vampire Survivors, when I was really into that. Like, I didn't touch SnowRunner very much. Or I'll just jump over to American Truck Simulator and just be playing that for a long time. So it's always kind of in the background. And if something comes along, I know that I can jump into a different game like Inscription and just chug along with that for a little while. And I know SnowRunner's the backup girlfriend. It's always well, if I get tired of you, the old standby, the one I want to settle down with is always there.
SnowRunner's the equivalent of an AI chatbot for me. Always there, never talks back.
Yep.
Always says just what I want to hear.
Tank's always full of fuel.
always ready to go right when you need her. We're still talking about the game, right?
Great traction in the mud. Wait, what are we doing?
This is how it ends, folks.
Not with a whimper, but a moan. Man.
Unbelievable. So, yeah, that's that. And I guess Vampire Survivors a little bit, too, because these are games that, come out with new content on a semi-regular basis. So
I've in a similar way, I've bounced from Survivor Up or whatever you call them, from one game to another, I'll say with the same irregularity. Like I played Vampire Survivors for a while, and I got tired of it. And then when I had that itch again, I scratched it with Brotato. And then when I got the itch again, I scratched it with Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. And maybe I'll give Nordic Ashes a try the next time I feel like one of those games.
Yeah.
It's the same idea, just different.
They're great to
different games doing essentially the same thing.
Yeah, they're great to just jump into, learn the mechanics, and then have some fun with, and get as deep into it as you want. I tend to get a little obsessive about them, but so I have a feeling most people play like you do, Joe, where they get the idea for it, they fulfill whatever goals they had for it, and then they just move on to something else. So
once I scratch that itch, I'm on to the next.
Yeah, there's no wrong way to play it. You're not a serial survivor monogamist. You don't have that backup.
Afraid not.
Incredible. All right, so we've got a bunch of listeners that have some slow burner games. We'll start off with Ryan. Todd, you want to read?
Farmer Steel says, I'm going to go with what immediately comes to mind because it's an absolute slow burn currently, Xenoblade Chronicles games. Having only played 2 and 3, I can only speak to those ones. Both games are big open-world games with a ton of dialogue and auto-battling combat. But they are also very slow in their pacing. It really feels like you were traveling huge distances in real time with regular people, which is nice, but once again, super slow. I'll play like an hour a day for a week, put it down for a while, come back and do it again. Forget most of the plot details and just follow the quest markers, trying to remember things as I go along. The game has so many weird mechanics for world building that it doesn't feel important. Like any time a game introduces a card game, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I ain't learning that. I think I'm having enough fun playing the game, but yeah, it's so slow. It's better to just take your time because the game forces you to.
I don't know if I could play an RPG like Xenoblade over the course of years, because I play it at least in part for the story, and if I forget the story, it's I've already... If I had to start the game over to remember where I was, I don't know if I'd be able to get back into it again.
Yeah.
It's that classic story of playing RPGs when you were a kid. You'd play through the first disc of Final Fantasy VIII on PlayStation, stop playing to play something else. go back to it, forget everything, and go, well, I might as well start over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it really depends on how much you're, there for the story and how much you're there for the gameplay. My brother had a friend when we were kids. He's still friends with him now, but he would just be like one of those kids that would skip every single cutscene in like Nintendo or Super Nintendo games. And he would just like charge through all the dialogue. I'm like, wait, why are we here? Why are we doing this? And he was an RPG, like he was a Final Fantasy fan, but he would literally skip the dialogue in Final Fantasy games. I'm like, I've never seen this before. You're a strange one, dude.
I'd say there's no wrong way to play, but that's the wrong way to play.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So it's just a series of turn-based battles that have no real context. You're just like, I'm fighting this guy now. He's dead. I'm fighting this guy now.
Essentially.
He's dead.
Yeah, that's the way he did it. I don't know. I have a feeling if a game had unskippable like cutscenes or dialogue, you probably just wouldn't even play it. It's just very impatient about it. But anyways, this is the only person I've ever seen do that. So
play games however you want to play games, man.
Yeah,
exactly.
enough.
And he's still a weird dude. So
Next up, Chris Murray writes, I find that this is happening. That if this is happening to me, it's often because of one of two reasons. I actually don't like the game all that much, or I burn myself out from overplaying. I'm currently experiencing this with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where the fetch quests and other side work burn me out a bit because I can't imagine not doing all the tasks, even though I absolutely love the game.
Yeah, I'm with you, Chris. We've discussed this on the Discord a couple of times, a little bit here and there. I have not done everything in the game. I'm on chapter 13 of 14 for context here, and I definitely have not done everything in all of the areas of the game before moving on, but pretty close to it. And I'm about 100 hours into the game at this point, so it's not a short game.
any estimates? Well, you said you were pretty close to the end. Right?
I'm pretty close. Yeah, I'm about halfway through chapter 13. According to the percentage counter that PlayStation 5 gives you when you're going through main storylines in games. So I don't know, maybe another 10 hours. It's hard to say.
It's not too bad. Maybe next month you'll have some good news for us.
We'll see.
The baby's been born. Modal Madness says, I would have to say Vampire Survivors, with Stardew and Minecraft close second. Vampy Survivey is a great game to play while talking to someone over Discord or on the phone. That's a good point. Doesn't take much thought and is simple enough to gain some ground for unlocking on there in a short amount of time. Love coming back to it every few weeks.
I could definitely see a game like Minecraft where it's just an open world sandbox thing and you could just build something for a while or just walk around. I could see a game like that going back to it every now and then. Vampire Survivors, I don't think I could play that while doing something else just because there's so many things going on the screen at once. I think it would command my attention.
Yeah. If you've played it as much as I have and it starts to get to the point where it's like you can literally just stand still and enemies just kind of bounce off you and die, you could definitely handle other things while playing that game. And if you're just doing it to get some unlocks so that you can play other challenges down the road, then I can totally see it. There does come a point where excuse me, Vampire Survivors gets a little bit boring, I would say. You have to keep changing up your characters and using the weaker ones to keep the challenge up, because if you keep using the same powerful guys over and over again, it's like I said, you could just stand there and you're practically invincible. You're just too powerful. But Minecraft too. I mean, there's just so much to do in Minecraft and different mods and everything that I can see people kind of putting that one down for a while. And it's not like you're picking a storyline back up. You're just like, oh, I'll play some more Minecraft, and you see what goes on. I have a feeling that's more like that game's more like a lifestyle almost than a game. Sometimes people just have had it since they were born, in my kids' cases. So it's just always something that they're like, oh, I wonder what Minecraft's up to. What have the new updates shown? And they just get in there and play around for a little bit.
I could see myself doing the same thing. I'm not really into the farming sims, but a game like Stardew or an Animal Crossing or something like that, I could see myself having it there as an old standby just if I, need to scratch that itch. I never really got into it in the first place, but that seems like the kind of game that you could really do that with.
Yeah, there just comes a point in your life where you're like, I'm in the mood for this, and that fulfills some need in your life for a little while.
Mike Stark says, my current gaming project is Valheim, which I've been playing for almost 4 months at this point with my brother and some friends. We're finally reaching the end of the content that's in the game, and we've been playing almost nightly the entire time. Valheim has a great built-in progression system that ensures that you'll always be challenged by the new content but able to overcome it, while demonstrating how powerful you've become by allowing you to go to the previous areas and wipe the floor with the enemies and obstacles once you once found difficult to overcome. I'm not familiar with this game.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I don't think I know this one.
I've heard of it, but I've never... I think I see like armor and medieval stuff, and I'm like, not for me, because
is that what it is?
I don't really go for that theme.
We'll have to watch a gameplay video and see what it looks like.
Yeah. I do like games that let you go back to earlier levels and just kind of like be really overpowered, because I just find that really fun. I love doing that in like Hyrule Warriors. Once in a while, I'll just go back to like the first couple levels and just
flatten
decimate.
Everything. Yeah. That's always fun.
Yeah, it just gives you that feeling of power. All right, cool. That's all we had for that topic. Thank you so much, friends, for chiming in. And if you have any slow burn games that you didn't get a chance to talk about, let us know in the Discord. We're always there hanging out. Let's move on to Joe. Oh, you've got a great tune set up. I know every note of the song by heart.
Yep. And I actually, as I'll get into, I have you to thank for it. My track is the Aqua Kitty theme from Aqua Kitty, released for everything, basically, from 2013 onwards, composed by Electric Cafe. And we're back. That was Aqua Kitty theme from Aqua Kitty, released for everything in 2013 and onwards, composed by Electric Cafe. Wow. I love that track. I love this entire soundtrack. It was about a year ago or so where you played, Ed, a track from this game, Creamy Cove. And I really was into it, and I didn't know anything about the game, except I thought, wow, that's a great soundtrack. So I went and I listened to the whole thing and still never played the game, and loved every single track in the soundtrack, but that's as far as it went. And then recently, as I finally finished playing Rogue Legacy, there was something about YouTube's algorithms that suggested to me again, hey, I should listen to the Aqua Kitty soundtrack again.
Oh, cool.
And I was looking for a game to play, and I happened to have not this first Aqua Kitty game, but the new one, or newer one, called Astro Aqua Kitty, which is a similar idea. It's done a little bit different with some different mechanics, but same idea. It's a bullet hell with some RPG elements to it. And wow, this game is amazing. I'm having so much fun with it. I didn't even know what kind of game it was. We probably talked about it on the show a year ago, but when it went in one ear and out the other, unlike the soundtrack, which stuck in my head. And I was so excited that I discovered a game without knowing anything about it except for the fact that I love the music.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking, has that happened to you guys? So that's my topic. Have you ever listened to a soundtrack that you liked so much you just had to give the game a shot, knowing nothing else about the game, not even like what kind of game it was? Because I'm not usually into shoot 'em ups, or bullet hells or that kind of thing. And how did it turn out for you? Did it turn out to be any good? This one, spot on. Great soundtrack, and I'm having so much fun with Astro Aqua Kitty, the game. So, Ed, thank you for enlightening me about this soundtrack and about this universe of games.
You are quite welcome. It's absolutely one of my favorites, and my answer to your question is also this game. So, which is funny, because I first heard this when Brian Mosley over at Pixelated Audio played a track from it on that show. Probably 2014, 2015, like towards the very beginning of the show, when he was still doing it with James, and I absolutely loved it, and he and I were pretty good friends at the time, so I reached out to him, and I was like, dude, that Aqua Kitty soundtrack, that's really good. Does the rest of the soundtrack sound like that? And he just sent me the link to the playlist on YouTube, and I was like, oh, it really does. So ended up grabbing the whole soundtrack and then grabbing the game as well because he recommended it. So yeah, this was totally one of those where I was like, yep, found a great game because of the really cool soundtrack. So it's almost like getting viral. Like, it's just so good that anybody who really hears it is like, yeah, no, I need more of this in my life. And Todd, you were kind of doing the same thing. You're just beginning your Aqua Kitty soundtrack journey.
And my answer to Joe's question is I don't have an answer, but I'm about to.
I would recommend starting with Astro Aqua Kitty as opposed to Aqua Kitty, just because I found the newer game to be more polished with more features, and I liked it better. I tried them both.
The first one is very arcadey, so it's just like you play it and that's really it. There's different levels and stuff, but there's more oomph to the more recent one.
The soundtrack is better in this first one. It's more ambient, I'll say, in the newer game, which is a disappointment. But if you're looking for a game to get into, and it's super easy to pick up, it's a bullet hell shoot 'em up with some light RPG elements. I'm on level 7 of 8, and I've put in probably 20 hours or so far. Taking my time and, going in the wrong direction on purpose to see, what treasures and things I could find. And it's a blast. So, Todd, give it a shot. You will not regret it.
Alrighty, I will.
Cool. I think a lot of the games that Alberto Gonzalez composed for as well were also ones that I really liked his music, and we were sharing them on Pixel Tunes way back in the day, so I would go and play Asterix or
He
Lucky
did the
Luke.
Smurfs, right?
He did the Smurfs
That's
as
the one I'm
well.
thinking of.
Yep. So a lot of those old Game Boy and Game Boy Color games that I was not familiar with, that mostly only had European releases, I ended up going and checking out and really enjoying those too. So, and of course the Tim Follin stuff. Not that, Tim didn't really compose very many games that were actually good and worth playing. But the Starsky and Hutch game on Xbox is pretty damn good. And he did do Uprising as well, which was a quasi like XCOM style game, very simplistic for the PS2, which was good, which I got into because of the soundtrack. So a couple of things like that.
I've definitely heard video game music and been like, yeah, I want to play some Castlevania, but that's not like discovering the game, you know?
You just get you in the mood for it.
Just get you in the mood for it, you know, after hearing it.
Also awesome. Yeah, that's something different. This is like, I knew nothing about the game, even what kind of game it was, other than listening to the soundtrack. And that was enough to get me to press play. And from there, it was a one-way road. Cool. What a great, great game.
Yeah, I'll have to try out the new one. I haven't played it yet. I wonder if I can just get into the game's files and replace the original soundtrack with the sequels.
Whoa, that would be kind of awesome.
Yeah, play the new game with the old soundtrack. I think that would be pretty cool.
Then you'd have a nearly perfect game on your hands.
Yeah, agreed, for sure. So we'll figure that out when we get there. Didn't get a chance to ask this question to our listeners, but hey, if you have any you want to chime in, like I said last time, hit us up on the Discord or send us an email. Let us know what soundtracks have led you into awesome games. I think that's a really good topic to
or
talk
good or
about.
bad, or even if it turned out to be a lousy game, but at least now you know. Save us the misery.
Indeed. All right, guys, ready to move on to our last topic?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm introducing my topic with a song called Crush Underfoot from Grey Goo. This was released on the PC in 2015, composed by Frank Klepacki. Todd, if you're not familiar with this soundtrack, you might enjoy it. It's got some good industrial grooves.
All right, I'm in.
All right, that was Crush Underfoot from the game Grey Goo, released on PC in 2015, composed by Frank Klepacki, most famous for doing the soundtrack for Command & Conquer, Red Alert, some industrial stuff going on there as well. Fun soundtrack that I didn't know that he had originally composed, and this one's a little more cinematic than some of the stuff you get from Red Alert, but
I was going to say, it sounds very movie-like.
yeah, it's got some good industrial grooves in there too, which I appreciated quite a bit. But the game does slot quite nicely into my topic for today, which I wanted to start with a small quote from, I just took this directly from an article about it on Kotaku, just in case people weren't completely up to date on current events. Members of the Screen Actors Guild, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, SAG-AFTRA, voted last fall to authorize a strike, citing an unwillingness of big game companies to budge on guaranteeing performers' rights over how their work is used in training AI or created AI-generated copies. Roughly 2,600 voice actors and motion capture artists, including talents like Troy Baker from The Last of Us, Jennifer Hale from Mass Effect, and Matt Mercer from Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, have been working without an interactive media agreement since 2022. The strike started on July 26th at 12:01 a.m., so less than a week ago. This feeds into my topic. My topic is video game voice actors and motion cap artists are currently on strike, primarily to install protections against AI taking their work away. What role, if any, do you think AI can play in video game creation? Which are a gray line for you, and which are absolute no-goes? So where do you think that AI is appropriate to use in video game creation, and where's like, nope, AI is just, that's unethical and bad?
I read somewhere that AI is being used on some level to sync the mouth movements of the characters speaking in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like when you're running around in the field and like they're having a conversation, their mouths move, and you know, you can't really see it very closely, but it kind of looks like it matches up pretty well. And in cutscenes, you know, they can program it so that it looks very natural. But when you're like running around and jumping on things, that's probably a little bit harder. And I read that there's some amount of AI being used to like match all that up so that it looks good. I don't know if that's actually true, but
I think it's a good use for it if that's what they're doing.
If that's the case, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the same page. If it's a quality of life issue where, you know, it doesn't actually, I'll say, change the game any, but it makes it feel more real as you're playing it, then I don't see the harm, you know, for that kind of use. But I definitely would have, I'll say, a lot of no-goes as far as expanding usage of it, especially without lots and lots of proper protections.
Yeah. I think, you know, people hear AI nowadays and they immediately all jump to
Porn.
Well, that too. Which is a version of generative AI, which means it makes visual or audio art, basically artificial boners. And that's what people are most up in arms about. And I don't blame them, because that is taking work away from artists, voice actors, musicians, singers, etc. AI music generation is unbelievable right now. Like, there are like AI songs on YouTube that just sound like any other song you'd ever hear on the internet. And some of them are actually really good, which is really scary. So there's stuff like that, but then there are also AI tools that, like you were talking about, Todd, just make it a little bit easier for people that are programming games. Maybe they don't have to crunch so hard to get the game out before release. You know, it's not necessarily taking their job away. It's just making what they are doing a little bit easier, or make the quality of that output a little easier or better with the same amount of work. And I think AI is fine there. Like some other applications could be the way enemies behave. Like if you're playing a shoot 'em up game or a tactical shooter kind of a thing, if there's some sort of learning mechanism built into the enemies where they're flanking you using real military tactics, you know, you're able to, like, you know, destroy walls and everything. And as the environment gets changed around you, the enemies can use AI to kind of adapt to whether a giant truck pulls up in front of you, or whether you blow out some walls or something, or build a wall in a particular place. It's going to behave differently, and it can use AI to do that. Like, I can see that as being a great use of it, and that's not taking anybody's job away. That's implementing a new learning technique.
That might almost make games too hard.
Well, yeah, but more realistic. I mean, I can see it for
True.
like military training simulators too, but I don't want to get into the ethics of that. Right? We're not talking about that right now. But I do think there are ways that we can use AI in games that aren't, like I said, taking jobs away, that aren't making it might be changing the jobs that some people do, but not, doing it for them. And I still think that humans doing the brunt of the thing is still going to be better output than AI doing the brunt of the thing. But it seems like corporations are trying to get to the point where it's like AI doing the brunt of the thing, and I can't abide by that. It was a shower thought this morning, but I was thinking how ironic it was how, like, in the 80s and 90s, all of these, like, movie companies and, like, media corporations are, like, putting out movies and stuff like Terminator 2, where, like, AI is the enemy, AI is going to take us over. And now they're like, but actually, AI is going to take us over, and it's a good thing.
It's just what it wants us to think.
So it's
luring us into a sense of confidence.
Right. It's extremely hypocritical when there's dollar signs on the back end for them. So that's what I thought. I think we're going to see more AI, whether people like it or not. I don't want to see it in terms of replacing actors, artists. I think it's only ethical to use if it's assisting programmers, etc., and doing the kind of things that we just described. Are you guys on board with that, or do you have...
Mostly. I guess what I'd like to see happen is for it to flop, and flop publicly, and flop hugely.
Yeah.
Just enough so that people go, well, wait a minute, maybe this isn't the answer to everything.
I don't think that's
to
gonna
slow
happen.
people down and make them think a little bit more. For some great, some big, like, AAA title to be massively hyped about how AI involved it is, or maybe how even entirely created by AI it is.
Oh, okay.
And for it to just not be any good as a result,
Gotcha.
and to not sell, so that financial incentive to be a hypocrite disappears for companies, or at least puts it on pause for a while.
Yeah. I thought you meant the technology itself was going to flop. I think the technology is here to
No,
stay.
I agree, but
I'd like using it.
I'd like to see a use of it fail spectacularly to slow down implementation in potentially negative ways.
This would be the next ET, which may as well have been created by an AI for all the effort that was put into it. But
well, yeah, something along those lines to make people go, yeah, we don't want. If this is what AI can do, we don't want that. We want people making our games they, are fun to play and worth the money and so on and so forth.
Gotcha.
Not that I'm against it altogether, but I feel like that's kind of a necessary, like, check on the system that I would like to see happen. Just to, I don't want to say slow down progress, but make us think about make us redefine progress and what gaming should be.
Yeah. I think it should be a tool to help use, or a tool to help make the product, and it should not be the product. When it becomes the product, then you're screwed. And
absent a very public failing of that, I think companies will only see dollar signs, and it's going to progress in leaps and bounds in negative ways, to the point of taking people out of the equation.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
And even my fear is the opposite of that something's going to come out without much human input, and it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be everything that I want, and it's going to scratch all the scratch that itch in just the right way, and I'm going to hate myself for it, but I'll probably buy more of it if it is.
And then there's that guilt.
Yeah, I mean, if they make some like amazing open world Breath of the Wild style game, completely made with AI, now that enough of it's out there that AI could learn from what's there, and invoke just the right amount of nostalgia and just the right amount of gameplay, and be big enough and not roguelike enough, but just enough like random generation going on there to, like, keep it new and interesting every time, and just the right level of, like, difficulty in solving puzzles. And I would worry that I would like it too much and say, well, who cares where it came from? This is a good game. Let's throw our money at it.
Yeah.
And I hope that doesn't happen, but I'm not going to lie. Like, if a game comes out and it's amazing, I'm going to want to play it and more of it.
I'm kind of reminded of the big divide that there was when electronic music started getting popular, and where rock bands would be constantly on like electronic music producers' case about like the computer does all the work for you and you're not really making music. You need to learn the guitar and the drums, and like, you know, this whole thing with like Pearl Jam versus the Chemical Brothers and stuff like that. And I wonder if it's going to end up being like that, where there's just going to be people that are like, yeah, I only play games that are made by humans, and like, yeah, I play games, and there's room for both of them in the world.
And will there be an art in manipulating AI to provide the kind of output that you want? Maybe so.
Exactly. And
will
I
that
think
become the art?
If that does happen, which I don't necessarily want to happen, but if it does happen, I think there needs to be clear guidelines to say what percentage of your product is AI. Like, so people can make an informed decision. If they are against it, then they don't have to buy it. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to be like a AI vegan and just only use 100% human created products.
I have the hunger for human games.
Warning, may contain AI on the back of every video game box.
Soylent Games.
Exactly. It's not people, though. That's the problem.
Honestly, that doesn't sound unrealistic.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And that's one of those dystopian futures that we're like, oh, that'll never happen. And then suddenly it's like, oh,
oh yeah,
it's on the back of my box. This is what happens. We had a large turnout in terms of responses for this one, and I'm curious to see. I'm predicting, and I just copy and paste these as kind of blobs. I try not to read them until we actually get into the actual show. So I'm predicting a lot of folks very against generative. I don't know how many folks are going to actually address other types of AI that, like the ones that I was talking about, where I'm okay with, and I wonder if they would be too. But we will start off with Utopia and Nemo. Todd, why don't you launch us off?
Nemo says, my old man take on AI in general, which also applies to games, not a fan. Like most quality of life inventions, AI is and will continue to be used to eliminate jobs and concentrate power and wealth to those who already have them. To paraphrase Ian Malcolm, scientists were so busy asking whether they could, they never stopped to consider whether they should.
Can't disagree with that Jurassic Park quote.
Well, yeah. I mean, but we've been trying to do AI for decades. And I think the question about whether we should has been a philosophical discussion since the very early, like that's why the Turing test was invented. Because people are questioning, should we do this? Should computers be able to pretend they are human and be undetectable? So, but not that I'm disagreeing with Nemo. As a very, like, you know, kind of high-level overview, yeah, AI, not a fan. So, especially generative stuff.
I wonder, though, if it could definitely eliminate jobs, but I wonder if it would actually concentrate power and wealth, or is there a chance, and I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate here, is there a chance that the ability to generate your own gaming art, I'll call it, would that actually help disseminate power and wealth?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are already, like, AI games that are out there, and they're very simple and, you know, kind of like crappy indie stuff, but they do exist, so it will make it easier for
regular
the poor
people
to make better-looking games, I guess. So
and to get them to the masses.
It could have the opposite effect. I guess it depends on how available AI is to the masses, should it become a more common tool.
Fair enough.
If it's something where it's like only the rich and powerful can use AI that's worth using, then right, it's not worth it.
Then yeah, I mean, the progressive in me hates the idea of eliminating jobs and concentrating power in the wealthy. But
given how much of it is open source, I think the accessibility for everybody will be there, because then you can just compile it yourself, you know?
I hope so. And I hope that, you know, like if I get a good idea someday, me having no actual like programming skills in any way, shape, or form, could I, in theory, put a good idea out to market? Maybe.
Nudes of Todd.
You guessed it. Buy your 2025 calendar now.
The VG Embassy calendar. Oh, God.
Oh, no, please.
What is Ryan?
Now on sale to patrons.
Yeah, if there's interest for it, sure. We'll make it the like $500 a month tier.
I'm just saying.
You want to read what Ryan has to say, Joe?
Ryan Steele writes, I don't think AI should be used in a professional setting, or rather in any finished product. If an artist wants to use AI for, let's say, concept art, it's not the worst thing. However, then that would potentially take jobs from concept artists. Same goes with all aspects of AI.
Wow, an absolutionist.
AI should be used for hobby and personal use. I am not an artist. I use AI for generating land descriptions for my D&D games. I use AI for making character art for my D&D games, for a grand total of 4 people to ever see it. Nothing is sold, and it's just for fun. The problem is when big companies try to sell AI products, which is theft and removes jobs. Corporations will never do what's in the best interest for its employees, only for themselves. AI may be useful in personal projects, but it has ethical issues. This won't stop companies from using it. It saves money by removing employees for subpar work. Then all you need is touch-up artists and the like to finish the job, which is far less work.
Okay. So I wonder if he's just talking about generative or if it's like a total, like, not even enemy behavior AI stuff.
He sounds pretty absolute to his opinion. And there's a place for that. And
absolutely.
I can't disagree with that dystopian view.
For the personal use, totally. Like, I think it's a fun tool, and I've done my own AI art, and I've generated some of my own AI songs, and I keep them to myself, and I use them as like wallpapers on my phone, or I'll play around and see what kind of weird music I can make, and it's only me to listen to, and I don't post it anywhere, I don't sell it, so I think that's totally fine. It's just to experiment with technology. But yeah, I think as soon as you turn around and start trying to sell that stuff, that's when there's problems, big problems.
And that's a very fair line to draw.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, Chris Murray says, they have to establish real protections for stealing voice actors' likeness and voice, as it is effectively their product. I suspect that we will see actors effectively productizing their voice and licensing it out for certain jobs, and then there being a different rate card for live recording. I would really like to see generative AI in NPCs, which I think will really change the vibe a lot of games. Baldur's Gate 3 with generative AI interactions would be amazing. I do think we run a real risk of some truly messed up things coming if we don't get ahead of it. So he's a little less absolutionist for sure.
But kind of wary.
Yeah, and I think that he's got good solutions for what I perceive as the inevitability of AI coming to fruition, in terms of artists saying, yeah, okay, you can use my AI voice, but not without my permission, and if you want, I don't know, 100 lines of my voice in AI, it's going to charge you this much, or I can come in and actually do them live, and the fee will be higher, lower, whatever, turns out being the industry standard. But SAG-AFTRA contracts are going to have to allow for those kind of things, and those are going to have to be written in, which I think is a big part of why this is on strike. Because right now there's just no protections for AI whatsoever. Companies can say, hey, we used your voice in the movie, therefore your voice is ours. And that's kind of absolute BS in my opinion. There should at least be verbiage in the contract to address, yes, you can use it, no, you can't use it, or yes, you can use it, but with these stipulations, if the artist agrees, etc. Todd?
Redua says, so regarding...
Oh, no, you missed the dyad.
Oh, I'm sorry. The dyad says, if AI can be used as a tool to help existing employees without taking their jobs, then I suppose I would be okay with it. But I don't know how you can ever say that one thing doesn't lead to another. For example, let's say the artists use AI to generate concepts of work off of, or the coders to work off of, or the coders get some ideas for how to implement ideas. In theory, that efficiency reduces the available work, and that leads to less need, and therefore less jobs.
Well, that's a tough one too, because our game companies bloated. When you finish Uncharted and you see literally 400 names roll up the screen, are all those people necessary? Like... Can it be streamlined?
It's not just video games though. Like I just saw the new Deadpool movie, and what you do in Marvel movies is you wait till the end of the credits.
Right.
And the credits are long for a 2-hour movie as opposed to a 100-hour video game.
And you better hope the music is worth listening to.
Which it was. I'm not gonna lie. But it's and that's not to say that all of those people didn't have a hand in making the movie or the video game for that matter. But it just takes a lot of people to do those things now.
Right. Yeah, and so you have like a team of 400 people making a video game, and say with AI you could do it with 300 people. well, maybe those 100 people go off and make their own video game, and then you have 2 video games. Like, if it's taking less people to make a game, is that reducing jobs, or is that actually increasing the number of games that can be made, because then you have less people working on each game? I don't know. I'm not an industry expert.
And then just to bring it back to a money thing, would it be worth having a game that is just as good but made with 25% less people if the game were, slightly cheaper?
Right.
If, instead of $70, a new release was $50 or $55 because they don't need as many people to make it. I'm not saying that's awesome or the way to go. I'm just saying that is going to play into it and is probably going to drive sales.
Right. Well, because on the opposite side too, that's more ethically, economically, because now people of more economic classes can afford that game and they don't have to spend $70, $80, $100, whatever, paying for your video game. So, God, it's such a complex issue. It really, really is. And I think what it really boils down to at this point is unions and contracts. And Dyad talks about, one thing doesn't lead to another, and one way you get one thing not to lead to another is you address it very clearly in your contract. And if you are a union, which a lot of video game companies are at this point, they will make sure to have union lawyers that are very well versed on AI and technology and be able to really kind of delineate where your work starts and stops, and that line does not budge year after year when those contracts are renewed.
And that needs to happen sooner rather than later before it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. It will get out of control, and if it starts becoming industry standard, it makes it much more difficult to make contracts that go against that, because, hey, everybody else is doing it and nobody complains, so why are you complaining now?
Next up, Red Hua writes, so regarding the comment of the month, I think AI, especially for AI voice acting, can be a great tool that can help fresh new indie game designers who are just getting off their feet and maybe can't afford some aspects needed for their game, like the aforementioned voice acting. However, I believe this should be regulated by income brackets, so depending on how much the developer makes, if their finances allow for hiring voice actors or talent that AI can do, there should be laws in place that they must make use of said talents. Otherwise, the implications of financially secure companies running rampant with AI will be massive, and the effects on voice actors whose livelihood depends on this kind of work can't be emphasized enough. And this won't just apply to voice actors either. I am all for technology that'll actually benefit all of humanity, but technology that'll make the rich richer and the poor poorer is not something I can support at all.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I like that perspective.
Yeah. Again, I think that can be handled with contracts as well. I don't know if we would consider those laws constitutional. You can't or can't hire a person depending on how much money you're making.
I think that's a Commerce Clause violation.
Yeah. Well, Red Hua is not from the U.S., so, in Jordan where he lives, it might be something that they could do, but I'm not sure.
But honestly, the ability of companies and talent to make contracts is something that you can choose to ignore, commercial protections in the laws if you contract out of them. So it's the kind of thing where, if you could ever get a company to agree to that, a big company to agree to limit their profits in that way. I hate to sound like a pessimist and a cynic, but I
good luck with that.
Yeah, good. You're not wrong. It would be great, but good luck with that.
And at least he also did address kind of the economic status thing too, where AI could essentially help poor communities. You've got a game-making genius who happened to grow up super poor and just doesn't have the ability to access the technology or the education, but he's got this great idea that's for a super good game, and AI could at least help him prototype that so he can send it to a developer and be like, this is what I want to do. Can we do this in real life instead of just having an AI clone of it? So that might help. That might be the new portfolio. Hey, here's my AI rendition of what I want to do. Let's gather a team together and actually rebuild this by hand. Yeah, exactly. Rob Nichols from Rhythm and Pixels says, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on generative AI or on game development, but I do research both of these technologies and industries for work and personal interest. Game developers training AI on actors' mocap, voice acting, writing, etc., only to replace them in the future is absolutely awful and is a depressingly inevitable result of late-stage capitalism affecting the games industry. I agree. There absolutely needs to be protection for actors, as this technology can and will be used to cut human human labor costs. I hope that workers, unions, and game producers can come to an agreement that will work for everyone. Still, I don't think generative AI technology in games should be immediately demonized. Procedurally generated content has been used in games for many years to create new experiences for players, such as roguelikes, but the content in these procedurally generated games is trained on new creative properties created for said game, not trained on content created for hundreds of other games before it. With the use of generative AI, this can stretch beyond level design to extending dialogue possibilities with NPCs, or even to model in-game environments after real-life environments. Again, training the technology on new content created by humans in a creative way. In this way, we can look at generative AI as an enhancement tool rather than a way to cut and or replace human costs. These are actually really good ideas.
Yeah, wait, he's not an expert, he says? He sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Rob's just a really smart dude. I have to say, in writing this email, Outlook has bugged me about 10 times to use generative AI to correct tone, language, and other BS excuses. Enterprise companies are rushing to use this technology and have their users use this technology in any way possible and as soon as possible. I hope the games industry takes a more practical and creative approach rather than a shovel it in everywhere approach that we're seeing in the tech industry. Totally agree. Like, I get work emails and I am known as an IT person in my town, and so whether it's from like Spiceworks or Dell or any sort of IT vendor, they find a way to shoehorn AI into that email somehow. I don't know, Todd, if you see any of this as well at your work, but it's like AI is all anybody ever talks about anymore. And if you don't want AI, then you literally can't buy any more products because they're just all using them. And it always feels like kind of like a shoehorned in, like, oh no, we have AI antivirus protection. I'm like, that's been going on forever. Like that's kind of how you've been doing it. So now you're just calling it AI because it's a buzzword. Sorry,
that's kind of what it's
because it pisses me off.
That's kind of what it seems like a lot of the time.
Yeah,
right? Like they're just like, we've got AI because that's what everybody else has.
Right.
So we're doing it too.
It used to be called heuristics, and now it's just AI because that's what it is.
Yeah. But I do hate that it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Like overnight, it went from like, oh, this company made an AI thing, and now it's everywhere.
I agree. Oh, and I was thinking about actually the roguelike stuff that Rob mentioned. I was thinking about but forgot to mention earlier. Because you were talking about Rogue Legacy 2, and I'm like, Rogue Legacy 2 is great. It's a roguelike, but like that or with like Dead Cells, they are like clusters of pre-built rooms just in random order.
Yeah.
And it's random.
It's a different thing.
But there's an order to the random, and how cool would it be to have really custom, no two rooms are alike kind of environments, but the AI is smart enough to know which configurations like are not beatable or not playable.
Work
like
for
what
the
jump
game
is too
and
big
allow
or too
for the
high,
right kind
or
of progression, and yeah,
exactly. And what makes it fun? Can you generate it randomly, but the heuristics involved are still saying, yes, this would be great. This kind of run up, jump, slash an enemy through the air. Like this is what players want. Like that kind of a thing for a roguelike. I can see AI assisting in that kind of a thing, where if a developer wants to make a game that's completely and truly random but still make it fun, they can implement those things. But that doesn't take away the job of an actual game designer who's going to be working on a game that's maybe not a roguelike, or they can still do a game like Rogue Legacy where there's clusters of randomized areas that are made by humans themselves. So, I don't know. It's so granular. There's so many different, like, anywhere from 0.1% to 100% can make a video game at this point in terms of AI. So it's really at what level is your threshold of ethical use, in my opinion. But thank you, Rob. No, that was very informative, and that's a lot to think about. And thank you for bringing up the AI buzzwords in work emails, because that pisses me off too. I can totally relate to you on that. We had a late comer in terms of comments. Volt Supreme coming in at the very end. Todd, you want to read what he has to say?
Volt says, hey, some quick points off the top of my head. Firstly, AI changes so fast that in a few months, some of our current conversations may become irrelevant. Ha. True.
Yeah.
I haven't thought much about voice acting, but I imagine it would be like other areas. There's no substitute for the real thing, and it would be a shame if companies who could pay for actors used AI. Getting some legal stuff sorted is probably wise. My experience was shown that AI is a very useful tool for people who are lacking certain skills, but many people who have the skills have found that using AI can be harder work. Trying to get it to do exactly what you want is super frustrating. The more you rely on AI to do the real work, the less effective it seems to be. But as a tool for someone with skills, it can fill a lot of the gaps and help productivity. We should expect the bar to be raised. Example, people couldn't afford any voice acting, now have access to very decent text-to-speech programs. AI raises the bar. The lower threshold for quality should now be much higher. There's no excuse for poor writing, etc., and I guess the upper threshold also be raised as people can focus less on time-consuming tasks that AI can do. Another relevant point is that certain groups are working on licensing-type deals. Example, AI can use my voice at a price.
Yeah, so a lot of like what Chris Murray was talking about in there. Volt Supreme actually did a really cool thing that he posted on YouTube. He's kind of prototyping this stage performance where he has voice actors read from a script that's been generated by AI based on a prompt. And it's almost like half improv, half voice acting. So they'll read the script, they'll each take on characters, the AI will generate a script for them, they'll read it, and then when the words in the script are done, then they'll kind of like improv off of that and continue the story. And while they're kind of doing the improv, the AI like user or the host is kind of telling the AI what's going on and asking it to generate the next first half of the next scene that they do.
Okay.
So it's kind of like it's flowing in real time, and that would be awesome because then you can also get like audience members to like do like a choose your own adventure. Like, hey, the actors can do this or they can do that. What do they do? Or what does this person, like, what's the next line this person says? And then you can feed that into, ChatGPT or whatever he's using to do the script, and then it builds a new story off of that. So as a performance piece, I think that's really cool because the point is not to have script writers. The point is it's a one-off, you never get this, performance or script again kind of a thing where every time you go see the show, it's totally different and that's your show, So I think something like that and creating new art and performance based on what AI can give you is also an ethical use. As long as you're like, oh, I was going to put together a team of 20 writers to do this and now I'm just doing it. But if the point is to use the AI, I think that's another concept altogether that I'm more on board with.
I think the other point that I'll say struck me is that the raising the bar for quality is going to be an inevitable result. I think, and one that I hope is not for the negative. I hope that, for people who have played something made with AI, and God forbid if they loved it, that, they won't accept anything less than, that experience. And how is that going to affect our tastes for gaming and for art of all kinds down the line?
Yeah.
Are we only going to like music that's been AI generated to, be exactly what we are hoping it'll be or exactly what we expect it to be?
True.
Like, how open to completely new experiences. I mean, if AI uses everything that's come before it to generate quote unquote new content, how is that going to change what people want in terms of content going forward?
Right. Will there be some sort of a AI secret sauce that draws people to it more than what humans can do? That's a scary thought too, for sure.
I mean, I remember some games with awful voice acting very fondly, but for being bad or for having something else about them that made me love the game and made it, I'll say, catchy or made it, nostalgic in that sense. And I have good memories of that. But will that cease to exist if lousy voice acting is gone forever?
True.
I'm not saying I want bad voice acting. What I'm saying is there's a place for everything. And how will perfection, in a sense, change our tastes and change our expectations?
It will just make us demand more perfection.
Yeah, and will it make us closed-minded to anything that's not?
But, perfection in art is subjective. Some people might say, hey, I like really cheesy voice acting as a rule. Like, that is my preference, and that is what I want. So that might be perfect to them. So I guess we can't... There's not going to be a perfect for everyone.
I bet big companies would argue otherwise.
Well,
I bet companies would say, having only the highest quality voice acting, whether it's done by real people or
sure.
Having only the highest quality graphics, whether it's done by AI or real people, having only the very best and most action-packed battle sequences or battle mechanics or world generation, or having only the best is what our fans and our customers expect, and if it's anything less than that, it'll flop.
Sure, but sales numbers will prove that one way or the other. So
I guess my fear is that tastes will be narrowed as a result.
I think it already is. I think AAA games are looking more and more homogenous as they go on.
Yeah, and I think AI would only speed up that process of limiting the amount of art that we are exposed to in society. Not just video games, but everything.
But I also think, like, God, the kids, like Logan's age, are playing the jankiest crap in the world and absolutely loving it. Like, I don't think there's a standard for perfection in the new generation growing up. I think the weirder, the wackier, the less like reality it is, the more they tend to enjoy it. So I think there's maybe a narrow gap right now where it's like 20 and 30-year-olds that are like really into ultra realism and everything's got to look like ray traced graphics and everything. But like the middle school kids that Logan's hanging out with, like everybody, they're still playing Roblox. Like they could go play GTA 5 or Star Wars Battlegrounds or whatever if they want to, but they're choosing the jank because it's fun and goofy, and so I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying who knows what the kids nowadays are going to grow up and what's going to be perfect for them. Perfect might look very different to what we're perceiving it to look like now.
I guess I hope there's always... My hope is that there will always be plenty of options for consumers.
Yes, agreed.
And plenty of opportunities to expose yourself to new things, even if I do end up playing the same type of Metroidvania over and over.
And Joe, with AI 30, 40 years from now, who's to say you can't just be like, hey, computer, give me a ray-traced, cel-shaded game with anthropomorphic furries, and it's a noir detective game where I have to drive a Ferrari down Miami, but Big Ben's in the distance, and it's like create whatever you want, and that's your game. I don't think there's going to be any more like here's a video game for the masses. It's going to be just give me everything's going to be bespoke. It's going to be holodecks from Star Trek. Like you just walk into it and there's your game. Now maybe not inside it, but it's on your screen. Like whatever you want, that's your game. Just
computer, run program Joe 897.5.3A5.
Exactly.
But change 10% of it to make bigger boobs.
I was literally going to say that. I was like, whatever he says, I'm going to add boobs to it. And now you just took my joke.
I mean, you can add additional boobs, I guess, if you want.
Now I want 4
Needs
boobs.
more boobs.
And the dudes have boobs, too.
I want Total Recall style triple boobs.
A third hooter right on the back, so you have something to look at. Thank you, Al Bundy.
Oh my goodness. So I think I don't know, did we come to any conclusions? Generative AI, bad. Gray area everywhere else.
Lots of wariness, lots of fear, but maybe some potential.
Contracts and protections are necessary regardless of where you exist in the industry to make sure that your job is not taken by AI. I think that's what everybody could agree on except for the people that are on the other side of the contract.
That's exactly the sentence I was about to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a bummer. Speaking of people who aren't AI, I'd like to thank all of our patrons. I'd like to thank Jason Letourneau for making the podcast theme song. Did you just call my patrons AI?
Do we know for sure?
True. They could be really, really convincing.
Patrons, how do you know I'm not AI? I've been asked this.
You don't look AI.
This could all be an elaborate ruse.
I think an AI person would have more hair. I'm just saying.
Fair. Joke's on you, universe, if I'm what could be created through AI.
Wah, wah, wah. All right. I would like to thank all of my patrons, as usual, at our Taurus level: Cameron Childs, the Phantomeyer, at our VG Emissary tier, Periodical, Chris Murray, Claire Myers, Gannon11, Keyglyph, Kyle Kroll, The Dyad, The Last Rican, and Professor Tom. Our audio attaché members: Cameron Worma, Carlito, Muddle Madness, and Scott McElhone, and of course, our special agent, Ryan Steele. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today, and Joe and Todd. We had a lot of fun, continue to talk about your hot takes on AI on the Discord.
All robots, all of them.
All of them. If you want to invite an AI to the Discord to talk about AI, sure, as long as I can nuke him when we're done conversating with him. But we'll see you again in another 2 weeks with a VG Embassy episode, and we'll be back at the end of the month with another Embassy exclusive. I'll probably talk about our time at Retro World Expo, see what we came home with, what we experienced, any cool panels. It'll be fun. Good night, everyone.
Needs more boobs.
Needs less AI.
Boobs.
More boobs, less AI. Maybe some penises. Whatever you enjoy. Night, everyone.